This is the Brave Ideas Podcast, brought to you by Aqua. I'm Dan Herman, I'm a strategist, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Verushen, Head of Analytics at Aqua.
Our guest is Larissa Fainberg. She's a social media brand manager, and she's going to talk to us about the future. Larissa, what's new?
What's new is revolution, man. The next stage in human development. You know, we're fast progressing towards a highly digitized, connected, virtual world. The barriers between what is real and what is virtual are slowly being eroded and becoming very blurred as technology develops at an exponential rate. It's not only changing the way that we consume or produce or what our industries are, or what our technologies are. It's really changing society on a fundamental level. And it's happening in real time.
Well, we're talking about the Matrix here.
Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about, Verushen. The Matrix is now, and there is no red pill, I believe it is. We're all in the blue pill and we can't get out.
Okay, good. Like where this is going.
So, Larissa, what's changed? I mean, give us some practical examples.
What I foresee in, let's say, 15 years' time, maybe 20, but I'm old. Imagine you're at the bar and a tall, beautiful woman with long dark hair, a glamorous red dress, and a perfect Coke bottle body walks through the door and walks right up to you. She flashes you a beautiful smile. She starts up a conversation and she seems to know everything about you. You have so much in common. And when you ask her name, she says, well, I'm the Coca-Cola brand persona. In fact, she's not a real woman. She doesn't exist anywhere. She's a completely digital, virtual creation that you are viewing, perhaps through a virtual reality glass, like Google Glass, or Merge, or Oculus Rift, or perhaps an implant in your brain that's been created in, say, an office somewhere in San Francisco or Beijing. This office has found you via sentiment and sort of online reputation management tools that search for your data, because we're all connected to big data these days, which knows everything about us because we choose to put it all online. And all our technologies are connected to the internet. We live in the world of the Internet of Things. And yet, you would not, at least at first glance, be able to distinguish this experience from speaking to a real flesh and blood human being, just like we're sitting here together today. That technology currently does exist. This is the world we live in. The kinds of technologies that we use commercially today are developing and evolving in such a rapid rate that what is considered high-tech today will become obsolete tomorrow. What is the implication, well, specifically for people in our industry and for our clients, for brands? What does that mean about, the definition of advertising? Can we really still rely on specific kinds of technologies or specific kinds of media platforms or traditional ideas around, advertising campaigns?
If I'm understanding what you're saying basically we're all screwed. That the data that we're supplying in our everyday lives is going to create experiences that will fundamentally shake the core of human relationships. And you've also posed an interesting question around what brands can do in this world where basically humanity itself is actually at its very tenuous level. So what can brands do? I mean, how are brands going to adapt to this world?
So Dan, you're exactly right. And just to put it in context, about 100 years ago, there was a scientist, a geochemist in the former Soviet Union. His name was Verushen. And he referred to this concept as the noosphere. So, you get the geosphere, which is our physical planet. You get the biosphere, which refers to the biological life forms that, cover its surface. The noosphere is the sphere of the mind, of cognition, of technology. And what he theorized is that it's technology that's going to change the face of the earth, of society, and of humanity as we know it. This has major implications with regards to how we organize ourselves socially, how we communicate to each other and relate to each other. And that obviously has a direct implication towards the world of marketing and advertising, because all that really boils down to is communication. It's really just the content of what we're communicating. And
But Larissa, so let's take a step back. I mean,
sure.
it's all very futuristic, but surely, you know, societal controls and the way we organize ourselves from a society point of view kind of defines how technology progresses and how we use technology. I mean, you know, we haven't been intruded upon from a technology point of view just yet, because there's bodies and forums and laws being passed that govern the way that technology progresses and the way that we use technology, right? I mean, do you think that it's massively contradictory from where we're going right now?
I think that we may think that there are massive controls out there that, you know, protect our privacy, for example, and yet the NSA has access to every email that has ever been written in the history of emails across the globe. The US Library of Congress has archived every single tweet that has ever been created since Twitter was founded. Furthermore, we voluntarily put out minutiae of detailed personal information about ourselves for various kinds of social media platforms and their third-party partners, such as our clients, to have free reign on. And this is contractually legal and voluntary. We choose to engage with these platforms. When we sign up to them, we accept their terms and conditions. So there really is no legal violation in a brand popping up into a conversation that you may feel that you're privately having, but on a public digital forum, say about your favorite music or your favorite food, or, you know, where you and your wife and some friends are hanging out for a beer last night, and suddenly a brand interjects into that conversation for its own purposes, essentially.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's really quite interesting for me, and I think that you're right, that the way it feels that things are going is towards this all-invasive, all-seeing Big Brother type world where all your information gets used to create experiences that entrench you deeper in the matrix and deeper in the machine. But on the one hand, I can't help but shake the feeling that people are going to resist this. People are going to, as it becomes more invasive and more challenging, people are going to resist and take action. And it's already happening. So, for example, the way that, you know, Facebook has created a very data-intensive environment that is not only inhospitable to consumers in terms of being constantly bombarded with marketing messages, but also from the perspective of being inhospitable for brands to even do marketing because of how expensive marketing on the platform has become. I mean, what that is doing is simply driving people to new environments and new spaces where it's a lot more comfortable for them. So, for example, anonymous social media platforms like Secret and Whisper, where people don't have to put their information, where they can just have those conversations. Snapchat, for example, a great example of a social media platform where the content disappears. Yes, I get it. You know, Snapchat are keeping that information and archiving it. But still, the world of people putting a tweet online and then having to suffer the consequences of that tweet for ages is disappearing. You know, with the way that technology is now getting created to adapt to a consumer that is actively resisting the sort of invasiveness that you're talking about. So, V, I don't know what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm one of those people who don't really care much about giving out my data or leaving my footprint anywhere. I mean, I'm not somebody who resists what brands will do with it or how I'll be remarketed or retargeted to. And I've only done that because I'm quite keen on what the next experience is. I'm quite keen on what you do with my footprint. Also, I have nothing to hide. But back to the point, I really do feel like there is this massive consumer-determined drive going on right now in terms of the platforms that are popular, in terms of what's used and what's not used. And I mean, as soon as we started seeing, link baiting on Facebook news feeds, we've all jumping off. We're all using the platform less, and consumers are gonna demand the next type of interaction with their data.
Right.
And that's why I go back to saying, I really do feel like there's some kind of governance. While non-governance is being fought for so aggressively, individual governance is being driven by the consumers.
Well, those are two different sorts of governances. One is enforced by law, the one kind of understanding of, governance, and the other is enforced by the market, by consumers and their choices. I think that at the end of the day, either way, solutions will be technologically driven. And those technologically driven solutions will be constantly evolving, and they have very interesting implications for the future of humanity and society as we know it. One way or the other, the kinds of ways that we relate to each other will transcend our understanding of relationships and communications in terms of physical one-to-one contact. I think that we'll still have that physical one-to-one contact in a sense, or at least it would feel very much that way, but it would be completely digitized. I mean, we're looking at a world where we have seamless connectivity between every machine and device that we have. These are not just purely functional robots. These are thinking, information passing, I wouldn't say beings, but definitely things that, will be smarter than us, which makes us connected to each other and connected to our machines more than ever before.
Yeah. Well, smarter than me and you, maybe not Dan.
No, definitely not Dan, but Dan might just be a machine, I'm not quite sure.
I'm the Shermanator.
You had to take it there.
That's because he's a ginger.
Cool. So, Larissa, that's all fun and well, and yes, I'm a robot from the future, and we're all stuck in the Matrix, and this is great. But let's get down to practicalities for a second. What would you like Aqua to take out of this conversation?
So the bottom line for people in advertising and marketing and for the clients and brands that they deal with, you basically can't be too hung up on specific kinds of technologies or specific kinds of platforms, or what is the latest trend in, say, social media. These things are rapidly changing and rapidly evolving. Basically, marketeers need to be at the forefront of that technological development in order to actually be solutions providers, creative technologists at the end of the day. We need to be the creators of the next great technology that solves people's problems, provides them solutions for their needs, thinks beyond what technological offerings are currently on the table. That's what thinking outside the box is all about. And then the second level of that would be to redefine what it means to advertise. You can no longer broadcast a call to action and just expect a one-way monologue, buy this product, it's so great, click here, buy now. That's not what people want, as we said. We want to build and sustain relationships. We want to nurture them. We already do this. We already talk about brands weaving their brand narrative into the narrative of the consumer's dialogues.
Thanks, Larissa. That was a really out there but awesome conversation. So if aquanauts want to find out more about this topic and, of course, more about you, what do they need to do?
I will be providing a whole host of links to all sorts of interesting related topics in the show notes. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email me at larissaf@aquaonline.com.
Cool. I'd now like to go into the tool of the week. Today's tool of the week is an app which I'm sure will be useful to 100% of South Africans. The app is called LoadShed, and what it is an iPhone and Google app that updates you as to when load shedding is happening. What it allows you to do is set your area, establish your location, set a watch list, notifies you when you're about to be load shed, and it updates dynamically as to the stage of load shedding that Eskom has created. You can find this app on the iTunes Store as well as the Google Play Store.
So in other words, we've got utility to help us with our incompetency.
If you want to spin it that way. So thanks for joining us for this episode of the Brave Ideas podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with the next one.